Hi, Sophie.
Hi, Miss Kierman. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
I owe you an email.
Oh, don't worry about it. I get if you're busy.
No, I was starting to look at it and then I just got distracted, but let me just see if I can. I'm sorry I couldn't meet with you yet the other day, but it's easy for us to meet and still make a change to your schedule.
Okay.
Can you just tell me when you're free?
Sure. Tomorrow
Or
I'm
just
free.
you can just email.
Tomorrow I'll
Tomorrow.
email you.
Hi, Shayna.
Hi, how are
How
you?
are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, of course. Glad to help.
Thank you. Hey, Alexis, are you there? Hi.
Hi, sorry my AirPods weren't connecting.
It's
How
okay.
are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Good to see you. Thanks for
You
joining.
too, of course.
We'll just wait a few minutes to get started.
Sure.
Are you living in LA, Alexis?
Yeah. Yep, I'm here.
Good. Okay. What time, Sophia? Maybe we can figure it out real quick.
I'm free anytime after 10:30 tomorrow.
Okay. All right. I'll email you after this.
Okay.
I'll figure it out.
Sounds good.
Hey, everybody joining. Let's just see. I think we're just waiting for Sophie and Talia. Hi, Soph.
Hi.
How are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
Okay, thanks for joining.
Yeah, of course.
Just wait another minute and see if Talia is going to join us, our last alumna, 4 girls. Okay, why don't we get started? We might have a couple more people joining us. I'm Miss Kierman, for those of you juniors that don't know me. And we have 3 alumna to talk to you about NYU. We might have one more joining too. So maybe we could just have you guys start by introducing yourselves and tell us if you are still a student, what year you're in, and if you are not a student, what you're doing now. We'll just start with a brief intro with that, and then we'll go from there. So if you want to go first.
Sure. Hi, I'm Sophie. I'm a freshman at NYU.
Okay, so we have Sophie. Who else? We have Sheena.
Hi, I'm Shayna. I'm a junior in Gallatin at NYU.
Okay. Alexis.
Hi, I'm Alexis. I graduated NYU in 2015, and I'm working in digital media right now at a tech company called Gum Gum.
So you graduated Milken in 2011?
Mhm.
Was it 2011 you graduated Milken?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thanks for joining us. So why don't we start by each of you talking a little bit about why NYU? Why did you pick NYU? And what, let's just start with what got you there. Like what got you there in the first place? Like trying to think of yourself back in high school or at this stage in junior year or thinking about colleges. Like was NYU on your radar? And then how did you know you were interested and then ultimately end up there? Jump in, whoever wants to go.
Sure. So for me, I really wanted to go to NYU for a specific program. It's a part of Tisch. It's called the Clive Davis Institute. It's a music business program. And that was very unique from a lot of other schools. But I also really wanted to be in New York and be not on like a campus and just have like more independence and more freedom. So those were the main two things that really drew me to it.
Great. Hi, Talia.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Hi, Alexis.
Thanks for joining. Do you want to just quickly, briefly introduce yourself, when you graduated Milken, when you graduated NYU, and what you're doing now?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Talia Bender. I graduated Milken in 2010, and then I graduated NYU in 2014. I love NYU, so if anyone has questions, I'm happy to help answer now, but also offline if you have more. Today, I run a business focused on advancing gender equality, actually with Milken Alumni's mother, who I've been working with for a long time.
That's awesome. Okay, great. So, Sophie, did you finish telling us how you got to NYU? Sorry.
Yeah, pretty much. That's the gist of it.
Okay. Sophie went for a very specific program and applied early decision, if you don't mind me saying. Okay. Alexis, do you want to talk about how you ended up there?
Yeah. So I always really wanted to be in New York. I was always super drawn to Manhattan. I didn't really think so much about NYU specifically. It was more about being in New York. But when I went to go visit the other schools that had more of a campus and more of that like college rah feel, it did not feel right to me, and I was more drawn to like the city life and being a little bit more independent. So that's sort of how I got there.
Great. Sheena?
Yeah, it's same with everybody else. I kind of always wanted to be in New York and I wanted to go into the fashion industry. So I thought New York would be a really good place to do that. And NYU has a good program, a lot of good classes to help me do that. I applied early decision as well. And kind of what helped me realize I wanted to go there was kind of accepting that I didn't really want like a campus rah-rah school, like Alexis said. The city was really like what drew me to it.
Great. Talia, can you talk about how you got there?
Yeah, sure. So I actually applied early also. I thought I was going to go to USC my whole life, and then the rep came to Milken, and I really fell in love with it. So we went to go visit, and I ended up applying early last minute. I know a lot of you haven't. Have you guys had a chance to go visit anyone? Most of you, I assume, haven't, which I think is totally okay because you can talk to a lot of us to get a good gist of the school. I was drawn to it for a few reasons. One is it has a lot of specialized programs that is pretty unique to other schools. So if you're wanting to study something pretty specialized, it's a great school for that. I was in the media communications and culture major. It was in Steinhardt. The other is, we joked in my family, but it was kind of true that we were looking at the schools with the most amount of Jews. So I think it was definitely number one private school. I think the school's about a third Jewish. And they even call it NY Jew. So that was really important to me too, to be in a community with a lot of people kind of, that I was friends with at Milken, which was nice. And I also wanted to live in a city. I thought that was really attractive to me.
Can each of you talk about your majors, because NYU is very unique in the schools, the colleges that make up the university. And many of you guys have already kind of mentioned that, but most of these juniors don't know a lot about how the university is divided within, with the different colleges within the big schools. So maybe you could talk about, like, what was your major? What was that like? Like, what kind of classes you took in the specialty field that you were in? And what was it like to be part of that type of school, that type of smaller college? And what is it like to be part of, like, the campus as a whole? And do those schools, like, interact with each other? I just think that makes NYU kind of unique. Whoever wants to go.
Yeah. I can speak to that if you want. I really don't remember a lot of my specific classes because it's been a little bit now, but I think the nice thing about NYU is that it's a really big school, but most of the majors and the classes are pretty small. It is it's a private school at the end of the day, so you're not really having that many classes with thousands and thousands of students. I had many classes that were 20 to 30 students, and I was very close with a lot of my professors. So you have the opportunity for that. And then at the same time, you have a big school where you can take classes and, you have an opportunity to take classes in other schools. I took some classes in Stern, so I wasn't in the business school, but I had the chance to do that. The other thing with NYU, because it's such a big school, and it's very difficult at first. I think, like I always say, my college experience was probably the hardest the first few months, but I probably loved it the most out of any of my other Milken friends throughout the 4 years. You really have to find your group of friends, and that group can be through a sorority and fraternity, and Alexis and I were actually in a sorority together. The Greek life is small, but it's pretty awesome. It's kind of like the Milken type of person. So we met a lot of people that way. But it could also be, it could be a group that's an a cappella group. It could be a sports group. There's so many. There could be something related to Tisch. It just kind of depends on your interest, but there's so many groups. And I think just kind of like finding your people there helps a lot. So there's the opportunity for that. There's kind of something for everyone, I would say.
Yeah, I totally agree with Talia. So I was in the same major. I was also in media and communication. I actually applied as a journalism major. That's what I thought that I wanted to do. And NYU had a really good journalism program. But when I started it, I wasn't super into it. At NYU, you also have to double major if you're doing journalism. And I didn't want to take on a second major. So I sort of switched. I think it was my sophomore year where I switched majors. But I would say the different schools, I think Steinhardt, is the second biggest school outside of the arts and sciences. So it's not so small, but you do have a lot of small classes, like Talia mentioned, and very few of those big lecture halls. So I had a lot of professors that, I had really good rapport with, and I was able to meet with outside of class. And it's a lot of like writing workshops. And what I liked most about the major is that it's very applicable to today's world. So you study like the history of media and communication, but then also like how it's applied now, and like the rise of the internet, and like, anything that has to do with today's world, while also learning the history of it.
I'm in Gallatin. I'm studying fashion business. So Gallatin, I don't know how many of you guys know about it. It's like you can create your own major. Basically, you have an advisor that helps you build what you want to learn, what you want to get educated on. So I can really incorporate certain business courses, certain humanity courses, and it really helps me learn about what I want to do, because I went into it not really knowing what within fashion. And something that's really, really been helpful is this past semester, it was cut short, but I was studying abroad in London, and they have like a special fashion curriculum there that like completely like changed the way like I saw my life and what I wanted to do. The classes were really great. And also the internship opportunities played a huge role in my experience so far. Being in New York, there's so many companies, so much out there that you can experience. So if any of you guys end up deciding with NYU internships, I 100% recommend. I've learned so much through those.
Yeah, one other just thing that was really unique I want to add about NYU, because it's very unique to NYU, and most schools don't have this opportunity except for probably, USC and a few others that are in big cities, is that like the majority of my professors were adjunct professors where this was their side job. So a lot of them were working professionals in the media industry, and that's the same across the school. So it wasn't just, all full-time professors, which was a really unique thing part of it. So we had that, like Alexis was saying, we had the balance of, learning from a college perspective, but also from real life experience. And we even had, I remember a class where I had a lot of projects that were with New York City businesses, and we did like real projects for those businesses. So that was definitely a unique aspect too.
What were some other internships that you guys had while you were in the city, or like how did you take advantage of the city differently than you heard about your other friends at other schools?
Yeah, I was just going to talk about the internships. I interned every year starting sophomore year. There's so much opportunity because NYU is a little bit of a commuter school in that you're sort of living in the city and just taking classes on the side, opposed to taking classes first and living where you're living secondary. You're very much like immersed in the city, and there's a ton of internship opportunities. So I interned at a special events company. I interned at a marketing firm. But for all 3 years, I was doing some sort of internship during the year, because you're able to like spread your classes so that you only have class Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or whatever it is, or half days. And that was super, super helpful for me in terms of getting a job later on and having all that experience. Whereas a lot of my other friends did some internships in the summer, and some didn't even start internships until junior or senior year. So I think that was something really unique and helped me a lot in my career later on.
Yeah. Shanna, do you want to go?
Oh, go ahead.
Internships are definitely like core to every student at NYU. I don't think I had a single friend who wasn't interning or working starting by junior year, if not by sophomore year, which was definitely not the same case for my friends at, the big state kind of schools. I had kind of a rare case where I'm still with the same company that I started my first internship with after sophomore summer. I would say that's definitely not the norm, but a lot of my friends started off their careers definitely through those internships that they got through school. And there's so much opportunity. Every big company and even small company in New York kind of comes to the NYU pool of students looking for interns. So most of my friends had more opportunity and more things that they could even handle, because there were so many interesting opportunities to take on. And the nice thing is that it really, school is great, but I think actually working probably allowed a lot of my friends to figure out what path they actually wanted to take on. So I think that's one of the best parts of being at the school, absolutely. And the other, I even like stacked my classes. I was a full-time student, of course, but I was so into my job at the time that I ended up taking classes 2 days a week. And then the 3 other days, I was basically working like 30, 40-hour weeks. Not saying that everyone has to do that, but you do have the opportunity to really be immersed in the workforce while also being a student. And I was very social and still very engaged with student life as well.
So let's talk about student life. first of all, maybe you could each talk about, were you involved in anything at NYU extracurricular wise, outside of the classroom, besides internships that you were doing on campus, anything that you were involved in?
So I actually started a concert series this year. It's called Clive Live, which it's basically just like a showcase performance for people in my program. And that actually we've had 2 shows so far, and we're having a live stream on Friday night. And it's gotten a lot of attention so far, and that's been really cool. And a lot of people not in my program heard about it.
Awesome.
So that it was kind of cool. It kind of became like a thing that people looked forward to doing once a semester.
Good for you. That's so cool.
I'm not really involved too much in the extracurriculars at school. I really chose to immerse myself with like in my internships. But I was part of this one fashion organization at NYU. Helped a bit with their like yearly fashion show, and then like every once in a while I would like participate in the Jewish life.
Okay.
I was involved with Greek life, like I mentioned. I wasn't like super involved. I was on the executive board for a year, but I met a lot of my friends that way, not only through my sorority, but I also met a lot of friends through just like that greater community. I also created the chapter of an organization called Tamid, which some of you may have heard of from your siblings who have been in school. It's a organization that connects students on campus with Israel, but more in a business fashion versus politically. So I started that chapter at NYU, and it's an organization I love. I've been involved still, building out. I've helped even like build out the professional network, which is for people post grad. So that's an organization I highly recommend. A lot of campuses have it. I think it's on over 50 or 60 campuses now, and it's a good way to kind of find your Milken type of people when you get on campus. And then I would say also, I wasn't like involved in a formal way, but the Jewish life is really amazing. There's both a thriving Hillel and a Chabad. And the Chabad, I grew up probably similar to most of you, like, conservative. I wasn't religious, and I'm not today, and the Chabad kind of attracts all types and all levels of Jews. So it's not just like only for religious people. It's actually extremely social. The rabbi is known for, hanging out with the students and like being really, a friend to everyone. So the Jewish life is really, really amazing. It's like there's endless opportunities, and so is the Hillel. The Hillel rabbi is one of the most amazing guys in the entire world. His name is Rabbi Sarna, super impressive, influential in Manhattan. So the just getting in, I would highly recommend, even if you're not, and not about being religious, but just making friends that way, highly recommend being involved with Chabad or Hillel or both.
I was in Greek life, like Talia mentioned, we were in the same sorority. That's definitely where every single one of my friends came from, both in my sorority and outside. So that's where I made a lot of my guy friends in the fraternities and the other sororities. That was my whole group. NYU is really challenging in terms of finding your niche, like Talia said. It's a huge school. There's no campus. There's no really communal space. So finding that smaller group is really important. So that's sort of where I found that. And my entire friend group was based around that.
Yeah.
So
one more,
yeah.
Sorry, can I add one more important thing that I think will give you guys some hope too, is I was very worried about the dating life there, because you have a lot of very quirky and artsy type of guys, but I did meet my husband at NYU. So there's a lot, and I actually have tons of friends who did too. And also, side note, he's an alum too, and graduated Stern. So if any of you, he's also loved NYU. So if any of you are going to Stern, I don't know if they still accept right from undergrad, but
they do. It's just impossible to get in, but they do.
Well, if any of you are going to Stern or interested in Stern, I volunteer him to talk to you guys too. And he went to a very similar school like Milken on the East Coast.
Great. So something that Alexis brought up and that all you guys kind of talked about is just sort of the lack of community. on campus that doesn't exist automatically. It's not like a built-in campus like other traditional colleges have. And you guys all talked about why you kind of like wanted to be in the city and that you met friends from, you know, in the different areas that you were in. But like, I guess just like coming from Milken and being in a community like we are and just like the bubble that they're living in right now, you know, why did you want to go somewhere where it was like even harder to like sort of make that community? And like, did you have friends that didn't find their community there? Or like, did you like, what was the process like in terms of the experience at NYU and sort of what people sort of say, like, there's no campus and there's no community, like, how would you respond to that?
I would totally agree. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna throw in that being Jewish going to NYU is such a huge advantage because, as Talia was saying, the Jewish life is incredible, and I made some of my closest friends on Birthright through NYU. So there's definitely like opportunities to meet people. You just kind of have to like take the initiative to do it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it. I'm not gonna lie, it was really, really hard. I was not happy at the beginning at all. Even in your dorm, like I did not know anybody on my floor. Like I knew my roommate, and that was it. It's kind of like what I said before. People are just living in New York City and going to class. There is really there's nobody bringing you together, and I think it takes a really certain person to go to NYU and kind of thrive there. And you really have to be independent and tenacious and build your own path because there's no hand holding. There's no like beer pong in the courtyard, and there's no like none of that happens. So you really have to carve your own path, and it can be challenging, but once you figure that out, it's like the most amazing thing, and you will grow 10 times more than any of your other friends going to another type of school.
Yeah, I would say like there definitely is the most incredible community. You just have to find it. It's such a big school that, like Alexis was saying, the person in your roommate or on your floor might not be the kind of person that you're going to be friends with. Like if you went to a Michigan where people are a little more, you might be a little more mainstream, and that's okay. You just have to kind of go about and find your group. And I 100,000,000% agree, Sophie, that being Jewish is a huge advantage there. The Jewish life is like, I mean, I keep saying this, it's really amazing, but you have to be proactive about getting involved and seeking it out. And I will say, and this is something I really didn't know until I got there and didn't even realize probably until a few years in, is that a lot of East Coasters go to the school. And like my husband went with his 5 best friends from high school, and they all just went right from high school to their yeshiva to NYU. So transitioning to NYU was no big deal for them. It was a completely different experience for me. I went with practically no one. I happened to go with one of my closest friends from Milken, but the two of us were like lost puppies and didn't know anyone. We didn't think we would find anyone like us. And it took us a few months to get really settled. And it was hard the first couple of months when we saw our friends at Michigan posting pictures of, you know, football games or whatever. But once we kind of got settled and we really found our people, we loved it. We had the best experience ever and probably ended up liking it more than our friends at the other schools. So I think it is about, and not saying, you know, there's other groups too beyond the Jewish life that just happens to be thriving there, but you really, to go to NYU, you definitely have to be the type of person that's going to be proactive about finding your people, whatever type of people, you know, whatever group that is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to escape the bubble and kind of meet people that were really different from me. And I was really lucky because I met so many people through the dorm that I lived in. I lived in a really social dorm. So I became friends with my roommates, my suite mates, and the people on my floor, and met people through them. I think the biggest advice that I could give if you decide to go to NYU or honestly any school is like just putting yourself out there and trying hard, because like it's scary, but everyone's scared. And like the people I've seen that don't have a social life, that hasn't like found their friends, it's just because they're not putting themselves out there as much as they should. That's really the most important thing. And like meeting people in your classes or going to club meetings, like myself and my friends have met a lot of people that way.
Cool. What would you guys say would be like your biggest complaint about the school? Or if you could change one thing about NYU, what would it be?
I think for me, I think it would probably be like the divide between the schools. Like Stern, Tisch, Gallatin, Liberal Studies, all those schools are pretty divided. All my friends are actually in the different schools, but like there's like certain stereotypes with every school that I'm not the biggest fan of, obviously.
Anyone
I
else?
would say one thing that, I mean, this is going to be the case with a lot of schools if you don't go to a school in LA. And I knew that I wanted to move. I wanted to live in LA eventually after school. Is that 99% of my friends and people I met live in they stayed at NYU and they graduated and stayed in Manhattan. And same with any kind of work people I met. So I definitely had I didn't have like I have a huge network in New York and I had to really build kind of from scratch in LA. So I would say that's a major challenge, but at the same time, it's helpful because I have this amazing network in New York that I would have never had another way. So I would say that's probably been the most challenging parts for me.
Another thing is that New York City, it's like not for everybody. And I think you just have to be really real with yourself. It's like a hard place to live, but it's 100% worth it. You just have to be ready to walk a lot, carry a lot of groceries for a lot of blocks in the rain. But like, I think it's 100% worth it.
Do you guys mostly, is there like other colleges have, I haven't been on campus in a long time and I know they've done a lot of construction, but are there like freshman dining halls, or is there somewhere where like all the freshmen are like you eat together, or does everyone kind of do their own thing?
Everyone kind of does their own thing, but there's also like you can make it a meeting place if you want. Like a lot of people hang out in Washington Square Park when it's nice out. I sit in the park for hours. I watch people socialize. Like it's a really great place. There's also a bunch of dining halls around campus and in the dorms that I've like hung out with my friends.
Yeah, a lot of the freshman dorms have dining halls in them. So it's like, I mean, there's a good mix of people in there, but for the most part, like everyone that's living in the dorm is eating in that dining hall at least once a day.
And by the time you're a junior and senior, are people living off campus, or what does that look like?
Yeah, Shelly, just one thing to add, which is extremely unique to NYU, is there's actually a kosher dining hall in one of the main freshman dorms, which even people that are non-kosher, everyone kind of like hung out there because it was such a social place. So I would say freshmen, especially freshman year, and even, I don't remember, I think sophomore year too, but probably mostly freshman year, everyone spent a lot of time there. It was definitely a social hub.
Great.
I moved off campus after freshman year, and I've been doing that since, except when I was just in London. I lived in the dorm there. But people do all sorts of things. I know people I'm a junior, so I know people that are still in the dorms, but yeah, most people I'd say move off campus.
We've talked about Steinhardt and mentioned Stern and Gallatin and Tisch, and you mentioned liberal studies. Can one of you just explain what liberal studies is and sort of maybe how that's different than arts and sciences, or sort of what you guys know about that?
Yeah, I was in liberal studies actually, which is a 2-year program where you get a lot of requirements done. So you basically have like certain cultural foundations, social foundations, and writing courses that you take for freshman and sophomore year. Personally, like I didn't love it just because I knew what I wanted to do afterwards. So I just wanted to like cut to the chase already. But I know a lot of people that really loved it, and I learned really great things, and the professors are really nice too. So.
And then after your 2 years in liberal studies, you
apply out to whichever school. Usually it's like a pretty easy transfer. I think for Stern, you have to go through a bit more of an application process, but yeah.
I'm going to open up to questions for the group. So guys, just either jump in, raise your hand, or, jump in and ask any questions that you have.
Yeah, I have a question actually.
Thanks.
So since NYU has obviously the different campus life, can you talk about what a day is like, just a normal school day?
Yeah, for me, on every year was kind of different. So like freshman year, for example, I'd have like a 9:30 class usually every day. I'd wake up, I'd have breakfast in the dining hall. The one that I was in was like you swipe and you can like have everything you want. So, and then I would go to class and then maybe like grab lunch with a friend and then go back, do some homework. And then depending on the day of the week, do something with my friends at night. And then when I was living off campus, I did a lot more of like eating out and cooking. I would go to my internship and class if I had them on the same day. And Fridays usually a lot of people have off, so like that's a really good day to like go explore the city or meet people and have fun.
Sophie, do you want to talk about what a typical day is for you?
Sure. It's very unique for me because my program is based in Brooklyn. So I would take the subway there every day. They have a free shuttle, but to be honest, it's like kind of trash and it's always running late and it takes like twice the amount of time to get there. So it's just easier to take the subway. I did have some classes in Manhattan, so I was just kind of going all over the city all the time. Um, and my program is also more course heavy than a lot of other schools are. So I had 7 classes each semester. Usually people have around like 4 or 5. Um, but yeah, I didn't have too many early classes. Um, they assigned them to us because there were requirements we had to do freshman year. But next year I don't have any class that's earlier than 11 a.m., which is nice. And I typically only had like 1 or 2 classes a day. So the rest of the day I would just like see friends or do homework. But the workload is very manageable. So I was always able to kind of do whatever I wanted every day, which was cool.
Also, the gyms are pretty decent and nice and well kept, and I know they're building a new one right now that's probably going to be really nice.
I'm surprised none of you have mentioned BOPS yet. So what's really kind of probably sounds weird is that the library at NYU is extremely social. There's actually a social floor. And I think the reason why it's so social is because it's kind of like it's like a main meeting hub. So a lot of people also just like kind of spend time there, people obviously study there, but people also hang out there. So it does feel, once you're kind of on campus, it does feel like you can go from class and then there's places to hang with friends too.
Nice. Sophia, you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question about basically like I just want to know how is living there? Like how is it the whole experience of living in New York? Because like I know you're coming from LA, which is a city, but like New York City is just way bigger and it's like a whole different scale. And I just want to know like how's the living situation? Like was it hard for you to transition and things like that?
Living in New York for me it was pretty easy adjustment because I had a good group of friends from the beginning to kind of help me adjust to it. But something that I loved about it was just the newness. So like whenever I would have a free moment, I would go on a walk, I would try a new restaurant. Like there's just so much culture and it's so dense there that I've just learned so much about so many different kinds of people. Also, the international students at NYU, the ones I've met, I've learned a lot from them too. There's a lot of museums, like there's a lot of art and culture that you can immerse yourself in. And the nightlife is really fun. I know it's not like a typical Greek life situation at a lot of schools, but there's really interesting clubs and bars and yeah. So you just have to be willing to like walk a lot, do a lot of stairs and kind of like struggle, but in like small spaces too, but it's definitely worth it.
Ethan.
Yeah, so my question is, what's something you didn't expect coming in that kind of shocked you, either like good or bad, that taught you something you didn't know before?
For me, I would say I was kind of expecting this, but I was surprised to how great the extent of it was. But everyone I've met is so motivated and passionate about whatever it is they want to do. And it's like just a whole different level than, no offense, but from what I experienced at Milken. So that was like really awesome to be surrounded by just like people that are so passionate and motivated all the time. It's really cool.
For me, it was the range of people that I met. Like my suite mates, we were in a room with like 5 of us, and one was from Korea, one was from Thailand. I just met a lot of people from all over the world, and I honestly, first semester, I didn't really have any Jewish friends, which personally I enjoyed just like experiencing other people because everyone basically I know in LA is Jewish. So that's something I didn't really expect, but I really enjoyed learning from other people and their experiences.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. How is it like with I know you guys already talked about it a little, but like the classes and the rigor and like because Milken was so like comforting and like easy, not easy, but like you have relationships with your professors. So like how is like going from Milken to college, like in New York?
I personally felt pretty prepared for my courses. I grew to become really good at time management. The course load isn't too much at all if you manage it well. And also the classes I've been in have been relatively small. I've been in like one big lecture hall or 2 of them, but the professors at NYU are amazing, especially in Gallatin. They all have like done so much in their lives and they are really well connected. Another thing with NYU is that it's just a very well-connected school to a lot of different industries. But yeah, the professors that I've had have been really amazing. There's one I've done like they do like an independent study kind of thing. I've been doing that for a couple semesters. They're just all super smart and intelligent and insightful.
I feel like also, I mean, I think I agree. The workload is, I would say, very manageable. You definitely, need to put hours in, but I think the school realizes that so many people are doing other things besides going to school that it's not, for the most part, I would say most people aren't in the library 24/7 studying. I mean, it depends on, the major, if you're pre-med or something along those lines, but for the most part, the teachers know that you're kind of balancing with everyone's and having internships and very involved. So I think there was a really like healthy balance too, where people were probably more well-rounded than you might see at other schools.
Also, something really good to do, just for wherever you guys may wind up, is use the website Rate My Professor when you're looking for like what section of a class to sign up for, because there are some teachers that are like harsher with grading and stuff, and it's a good way to like make sure you're going to be in classes with teachers that will like be a good fit for you.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Are our answers making me want to go? I hope so. It's such a great school.
Okay, I'll ask another question. Maybe Talia and Alexis, can you talk about how what you're doing now, like how being at NYU got you to where you are now? And then maybe Shayna and Sophie, can you say like what are you studying right now and what are you hoping to be doing after you graduate, if you have any idea?
I think, like I mentioned before, the internships really helped. Anytime I applied for a job, people were really shocked to see that I've already had so much real life work experience. Another thing I've noticed, and I don't know if Talia feels the same, but the NYU name on the West Coast carries a lot more weight than it does on the East Coast. And I think it's because, like Talia said, a lot of people end up staying on the East Coast who graduate, and a lot of people are from there. So people are really intrigued by NYU on the West Coast. So that's something that's helped me. I work in media now, and that's what I studied. So I don't do what I studied necessarily, but I do have the background. And I think people are always just really interested and intrigued by NYU in general when I'm talking to them.
Yeah, I would say like definitely gives me a leg up. I've been out of school for about 5.5 years, but I've been working as a professional for like 8. It feels like I've been working for a long time, which is, I think, was pretty unique. Like there was no big transition. Of course, it was different, and I missed having the time and to be more social and seeing friends and everything. But it was a really easy transition to actually start working full time, which I think was really unique. I would say I recommend taking probably a little bit more of a break than I did, because you do never really get that time back, especially when you graduate and start work, and then transition to start working full time. The other thing I would say is, in general, my friends and the people I met at NYU were very just connected people. You have a lot of Manhattan families and New York, broader New York, families of kids going to the school, and it's a really amazing network. And even my friends who I don't, do work with, but I feel like I just connected one of my close friends who's, I don't do work with him, but I just connected him to someone the other day for business. Why? Like it's a lot of, I would just say like very business savvy type of people that you meet that carry on with you. And yeah, I would say also like you just kind of really grow as a person living in the city. Leaving our LA bubble and moving to Manhattan is, kind of a big deal. I think people respect that a lot, and you have to grow a lot faster. So that just also helps a lot.
So I'm studying fashion business, and from freshman year, actually I started interning when I was in Milken, doing like WISE internships. I don't think it's a thing anymore, but I started working in New York freshman year. I was doing fashion week for really high-end brands for like 5 or 6 seasons. I learned so much, honestly. Probably learned more about the industry through my work experiences than through actual school. Sophomore year, I was working 3 days a week for this small New York brand. I learned a lot about like the New York garment district, everything like that. And then I worked summer after sophomore year, and then this fall semester I worked for another brand. And I just want to like keep my options open to see what happens. I don't really have a certain thing that I am set to do, but NYU has really, I feel like, set me up to find a good job in the future and to like meet really great and accomplished people.
So for me, I'm studying music business, but technically my program is under the umbrella of recorded music. So there's a lot of people that are artists or producers or engineers in my program as well. But I want to go into either like concert management or artist management or A&R. Still trying to figure it out. But there's a lot of really great internship opportunities through my program. I've been interning with an events company this year, which is really cool. And we're planning a festival, a live stream festival now, I guess, over the summer. And then hopefully an actual festival in October if this clears up. But yeah, New York is great for music, and it's my program's really connected, so it's been really nice.
Great. Any last questions, you guys? What else?
One other thing, this is very random, but if you're looking at like other schools that are cold weather, which I know probably a lot of you are, I will say that the weather there is probably much more manageable than some of like the other big state schools in the middle of the country. So if that's something I remember I was considering, because we're just so spoiled here in LA. So don't let that scare you, because it's totally manageable there, especially compared to a lot of the other big schools.
Sarah?
Yeah. So I was wondering if NYU has like an honors program, or like an honors degree type deal. I don't know if you know anything.
I don't think so, but I could be wrong.
In arts and sciences is where it would exist if there is anything, I would guess. I'm not sure offhand if they have anything like that in arts and sciences. Nobody else does? Okay.
No, I don't. Do you mean like an honors program in totality, or like classes? I don't think that's a thing at NYU. I haven't heard of
Like
it.
sometimes at schools, like you can apply for or get admitted to like an honors. So you get like an honors degree, you get like special classes.
Oh, I don't think there's special classes. I know there's like, if you have certain grades, there's like credentials that you get, but there's not like certain classes that you take, I don't think.
Yeah. Shannon?
Yeah, you guys started talking about like how your professors are very experienced and that kind of helps like getting internships and stuff, but I was wondering like what other resources are available, and like did you guys have close relationships with your professors? Is that something that's like doable and that type of stuff?
Yeah, definitely. There's one professor that I took his class a few semesters ago, and then I've been taking his class ever since. He's like changed my life and like just the way that I see life. And my friends even have like learned so much from their professors, and kept in touch with them. Like my professors in London that I had, they like taught at other universities, and they've like written so much like for the industry, and they've done so much with their lives. Just even learning from them is really great.
I know that there was a lot of, when I was there was, I can't remember what it was, but there was definitely a portal or something that helped with internships outside of your personal connections with professors or anything. I don't remember exactly what it was, but there's definitely like NYU does not lack resources. That's something that's really great about the school. Again, like we keep saying, like you have to be proactive and do things yourself and reach out, but there's definitely a ton of resources to get connected for internships and job boards and all of that type of stuff.
Something you guys might be wondering about, I got permission from Shelly to talk about this, but you might be too shy to ask, is that the nightlife is really, really fun. It's very different from what you would see at a school like Michigan or Wisconsin or USC, where people are partying in frat houses and things like that. You definitely don't have that at NYU, but you do all go out together, and there's a lot of like clubs that are for underage that open. And then when you're overage, there's so much nightlife, and NYU takes over so much of the city that even if you're out at some random place, you'll probably run into people that you know. So don't let that scare you off either, because there is a ton of amazing social life, especially nightlife. It's just different, a little bit different than your typical, Greek life on campus.
Yeah, and there's also like literally no shortage of things to do. Like you will never get bored. There's always some new like food to try. There's always like a new gallery or exhibit to see. There's also a lot of really good concerts. So if you're into that.
Awesome. Any last questions at all? Anything at all?
Actually, I have one more question.
Great.
I guess this is more for you, Shayna, but you talked about how you got to study in London, and I'm just wondering, like, do you think that the programs that they offer, like abroad, like the one that you did in London, those are sort of easy to get into, or like are they like meaningful? Like, how is it studying in another country like that?
Yeah, NYU does abroad programs really, really well. It's not hard to get in because they really encourage all their students to study abroad. Like I had no problems at all. They really like support people meeting each other. Like they have a lot of like free trips during the day. Like I went to the English countryside with NYU for free. I met a lot of people that way. The classes they offer are pretty well rounded, and they have like so many locations. So like you can literally go almost anywhere in the world and have such a great time. And the tuition is the same too, going abroad.
Yeah, the difference for NYU of any other school in terms of going abroad is NYU actually has campuses around the world. So you're not applying to like another program in another country. It's literally an NYU campus. Like I was in Florence, Talia was in Florence. it's an NYU campus with NYU flags, NYU professors. There's no like transferring credits, none of that. It's a completely seamless process because, like Shayna mentioned, they really encourage all of the students to go abroad if possible, and they make it really easy. So that's a huge, huge benefit of NYU, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Also, just one more thing to add, which I was kind of upset about at first, but it ended up working out nicely, is that in most schools, people go abroad your junior year, second semester, but that causes a lot of challenges with people recruiting for your jobs, because a lot of times you get your internship for your summer after junior year, and then that becomes your job. And it's really hard to recruit when you're abroad. So actually a lot of people at NYU, you can go whenever you want abroad, but a lot of people at NYU go second semester, sophomore year, which was really nice because you kind of were still figuring out your career while you went abroad. And then you had junior year to kind of start getting really focused on your junior year summer internship.
That's great. You guys, thank you so much. Thank you to Alexis, Shayna, Talia, and Sophie for joining us because, you know, we're all stuck at home. These kids can't visit campus. And it just is so helpful. And also just, you know, I think says a lot that so many of our alumni want to, you know, help out our students and share your wisdom and your perspective. So I think our kids really appreciate that. And I'm sure if you guys have any follow-up questions, like any of them would be happy to answer. And I'm sure with their permission, I can get you guys in touch with them. Any last questions before we head out, or any last things you guys want to say?
I want to share too that today, and I'm actually supposed to have my 10-year Milken reunion this year. We'll figure out if that's going to happen. But today, even my best friends in the world are my Milken friends. So you'll always stay connected with them, even if you all go to different schools. And it's actually kind of fun when you all go to different schools because it broadens your core friend group. So don't necessarily, you know, take your own path, because you'll still end up being very close to the people that you care about. And I know I can probably speak for all of you, but I'm personally happy to, you know, help answer any questions that you guys have. I really, you can tell I love the school so much, so I highly recommend it.
Thank you guys all so much. Thank you for your time. Thanks, juniors, for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody, see you later. Bye, Talia. Bye, Alexis.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Shayna. Bye, Soph. Thanks for joining.